I want to talk to you today about cosplay and how much it costs from a crafting perspective. So this isn't buying the cosplays, this is the crafting of the cosplays and what goes into it. The reason I'm making this video is I have seen a post where several people are complaining about the cost of costumes bought from foreign countries, where it is known that modern slavery is going on, whether that be people being paid ridiculously low, child labour and so on. So we're going to start with one of my simplest cosplays. I haven't done her for ages and I have sold her now, but this is Elvira. I didn't make the belt, I bought that, but to put everything together this cost me between £30 and £40 and it took me about 12 hours to make. The cosplay's price for buying it goes between £30 odd to £60. Adding the cost of everything needed to put it together and the labour time, I'd need to charge over £130 for this cosplay just to make minimum wage. Next up is Melon. She took around 20 hours to make. That's including the little badge that I made. The cost of the fabric to put everything together, even though I a bed sheet to make the shirt out of, which is cheaper than buying regular fabric, was about £60 in total. So I would need to charge nearly £300 for this very basic cosplay if I were to make minimum wage and cover costs of the fabric. Next up is Belle Dandy. Now, most of the white stuff you see is bed sheets again, so I probably only spent about £30 to £40 on this. Because of the detailing, it probably took me around 20 hours again. So I would still need to charge about £250, £200 for just to make minimum wage. So simple cosplay, but labour times, it does take longer to make. Next up we have my Sarah cosplay. Now this took 200 hours to make. There's a lot of hand beading on it, a lot of hand done detailing and so on, and the fabric was really expensive. And there were 250 meters of it. I also styled the wig and made all of the, well, I styled all my wigs, but made all the hair accessories as well. So that took time. So 200 hours to make, £300 to actually pay for all of the bits I needed to make the fabric side, etc, etc. So just to pay myself minimum wage, I am going to need to charge over £2,000 if I were to make this for someone else. Next up we have Agatha. Now in total I spent £600 putting this together and I made the majority of it from scratch. While the umbrella was purchased, I did add detailing to it to make it look like her brolly, and this was the original version. I did add stuff to it later. Again, this cost me around £600 before I was finally happy with it. It also took me a good 50 to 60 hours by the time you added all the different periods of time that I worked on it. Going off 50 hours, I would need to pay myself £572 just for the minimum wage aspect, then the further £600 on top to cover the cost of everything. I'm going to finish up with Rutella because I've recently redone her and will be cosplaying her, but probably places where I won't be cosplaying her for long because she is quite uncomfortable to be in, especially with my disability having got worse. Now, in total, I've probably spent about 400 hours on this cosplay and for everything involved, from casting all of the jewels to sorting that headdress out and upgrading it. And upgrading the dress and making the dress in the first place and the underskirts and so on and so forth. Cost in total, I would probably say, because there is warbler involved to make it solid enough in places to stay on my head for the red dress and other bits and pieces, I would say it probably cost me close to £800 in total. I have been making everything over several years. I'd not have £800 straight up to splash on this cosplay. That's not how we crafters do it, unless we're doing a commission, in which case we generally ask for a deposit, a non-refundable deposit up front, to cover the cost of the materials, so that if you change your mind halfway through or don't pay for it, we haven't lost out and we can still sell the cosplay to somebody with similar measures. So bearing in mind the roughly 400 hours that I spent on this, and the cost of nearing £1,000, we'll say 900 for now to keep the costs down for the benefit of this idea. To pay myself minimum wage just for the labour is £4,576. Add the £900 on top of that and you're looking over £5,000. Now I get it, a lot of people buy their cosplays now. There's a lot of, it's come a bit like disposable fashion. I have done that. I have bought cosplays, but they rarely fit. I've got one at the moment that I'm going to make my own version of, and then I'm going to sell it. But I want to do a before and after. Now I have nothing against people cosplaying in shop bought cosplays. There is nothing wrong with that, and people who take the mick out of it, stop it, because it's about being in costume and playing. But I see a lot of complaining about the cost of some quite intricate cosplays that are granted quite poor quality fabrics, but it's quite clear that it's something that people don't understand, the hours it takes to make these cosplays. And it's fine if you want to buy a costume. I have no issue with that. But seeing people complain that a costume is too expensive when it's a shop bought one just seems kind of ick to me, just because I think, well, you know, the people who made that, they're not getting paid an awful lot. It's very unlikely they get a living wage. They're very likely not working in very nice conditions. So that you're complaining of the expense just kind of disrespects the people who are making those to sell, because they're not making any money from it at all. Their time, they don't get minimum wage usually, and so on. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say really. If you want me to make more in-depth videos on sort of how I made some of my cosplays and stuff like that, let me know in the comments. If you managed to listen for this long, say hi, and love you and see you next time.